Welcome to the Real Estate Jam session. Today's a great one. I'm a little excited because we're going to be talking about ranches, and if you're a Yellowstone fan like I am, actually my whole family is, ranching is in our blood. So we got a great video. I've got James Bigley coming on the show. James is a big-time real estate agent. He's located in Central Texas, and he focuses on ranches. Now, he can do deals all around the country, so he's going to give us a lot of great information if you're thinking about investing in ranches. So make sure you check it out and like the video while you're there. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Joe Killinger, and I use this YouTube channel to bring people like James on and walk us through the path to success in real estate. So it's really a great way to learn a lot about investing or being an agent. So make sure you check out the video, give us a like while you're there, and if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. Well, James, this is something that I've been looking forward to. I appreciate you taking the time today. When I started in real estate, I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and got my real estate license. I was 18 years old, and I was going to start selling farms and ranches. And at 18, I parted my hair to the side, got some reading glasses just to try and look a little older. And back then there was no internet or anything, so we had to just get in the phone book and start cold calling. So I really learned a lot of it the hard way. Yeah. But I loved it. I love being out on, especially the ranches, and it was a great business, and I love it. So anxious to hear what you have to say about what's going on in the ranching industry, as far as from an investor standpoint. So thank you for today.
I appreciate it.
Now let's talk about you're mostly focused on Central Texas, or you cover all of Texas?
For the most part, all of Texas. From West Texas to East Texas, South Texas, and North Texas, and every region is a different type of opportunity, or different ranches all over Texas. So every single one of the regions is a different type of property, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a wonderful business, and I can assure you've got a lot of people moving into your marketplace right now. I know a lot of people from California headed your way. A lot of them are already there, and especially in and around Austin. So now you're based out of San Antonio?
Correct.
Okay. Kind of tell us, who are you seeing? Who is your investor right now, or your buyer for your ranches you're seeing out there?
So number one, a lot of people don't understand that people buying land, and what I call a ranch is something that's, it's very subjective what a ranch is.
Yeah.
A lot of people, buy 15 acres and they think it's a ranch, or they buy 1,000 acres and they think it's a ranch. And I tell people all the time, it's just, as long as you have some type of livestock or ag exemption, or even wildlife exemption on that property, you can, in my opinion, you can call it a ranch. Yeah. Have that said, that 95% of the buyers that are buying land or ranches are all new buyers. So, okay. So what you have in Texas, and actually across the United States right now, is you have land being fragmented, which means dividing of land over and over again, and it's creating because of the demand in the market. I would say a lot of these deals, are coming from the East Coast and West Coast populations. They're coming into Texas for many different reasons. But since COVID, since COVID and the change of workplace environment related to the situation with it's more acceptable to be working from home or telecommuting, the demand has skyrocketed for land. Yeah. And it's changed the marketplace big time.
Yeah, I keep hearing it. There's people up in and around. Well, my cousin works at a bank in Hastings, Nebraska, and he said, yeah, there's people back here shopping for land, and it's just they're not selling right now. But it's a pretty tight market. But that's mostly farmland.
Right.
Now, what is your average sale? Because I see you on TikTok. You're putting some great content out there.
Thank you.
What's your average deal size right now?
I would say, I do multi-million-dollar deals, and then I do some that are very small, like $100,000 to $200,000 deals. I would say roughly between 500 and 800,000 on average.
Okay.
Now acreage wise, it could be the hundreds of acres, because West Texas, you might buy 100, 200 acres for $400,000 versus 200 acres by Austin for $10 million.
Right.
So there's the huge amount of gap between those type of per acre basis cost. But yeah, that's the beauty of doing what I do. I've sold, thousands and thousands of acres and, a few acres for millions of dollars. It just depends on how close it is to the metropolitan areas.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of this is probably due to Yellowstone really romanticizing the life of being a cowboy or a rancher. And, growing up on a working farm and being around ranchers, it's a lot of work. It's something you really have to be prepared for. Now, are you finding that a lot of these people are buying it to live in it, or they're buying it just to lease out the land and maybe live in the house?
It's going to be a combination of long-term hold to build on it eventually.
Right.
Just had a conversation 30 minutes ago about a buyer that's looking for property and he's going to build in 10 years. Or another hold would be hunting. There's a lot of hunters across Texas that want to buy property just for hunting. And I would say, 20% of the deals is someone that wants to put cattle on the property and actually, use it as a farmland or, grazing. And I would think a lot of people would agree with this. More and more nowadays, the farming industry and the leasing of cattle or grazing is slowly decreasing by the year.
Is it really?
Yeah, and there's multiple reasons why. Number one is fragmentation of land. The smaller you get on land, the harder it is to manage cattle and manage farms and stuff. And you see that all over Texas related to just development and building on these good farms that were great farms at one time and so forth. You can apply that to all of the United States also. There's a lot of industry out there that's trying to keep the tradition going, so to speak, and put food on the table type of situation. But there's a lot of organizations out there that want it going away because of different reasons.
Corporate farming.
Yeah.
We saw that. Like I said before, I'm from a town of 280 people in central Nebraska. I grew up on a working farm. We just had a couple hundred acres that we farmed, and I could drive back out there, and those homes have been leveled. Those small farms have been leveled. It's all corporate farming. Yep. And James, this equipment is so massive. And so expensive. I mean, it's just so a lot of those small farmers have gone away. So I feel that it's probably doing the same to the ranchers.
Yeah, and one thing about Texas, a lot of people don't understand out of Texas is that the hunting industry for exotics and high fence properties is a huge multi-billion-dollar industry in Texas. There's thousands and thousands of acres just dedicated to these type of animals, and a lot of people have the misunderstanding that these animals are just hunted, or right. Caged and stuff like that, and that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of exotics we call in Texas that are actually the only ones left over in the world because they're extinct in other countries now because of just fragmentation and also the population of being blown up in many different countries. So
yeah, I've seen on some of your videos. I learned about some deers that I had no idea weren't natural to Texas. I'm like, I had no clue. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And then one more example, some of these animals that are on these ranches go for $60,000 a piece.
Oh,
yeah.
It's amazing to me that if you get entrepreneurial, you can find ways, which I think is something we need to touch on. I want to talk about the different types of leases. If I'm an investor,
right,
and I'm coming to Texas to buy property, but I want to lease it out. Give me the lease options. How can I monetize this? My ranch.
So just for the lease options, and I'll go through a scenario if you want afterwards, and I'll give you some examples. But lease option one would be it's like a burst strategy in a way, but you're
Yep.
doing it with a ranchette. I call a ranchette like 10 to 30 acres, and it's ag exempt, which I can explain that too. But
Yep.
you have a home on it, and let's say it's a just a small 3-bed, 2-bath, and you rent that out to a renter, and it usually goes for premium, and your property taxes are way lower because you're in rural, number one, you're not in the ETJ, which is city limits. And number two, you're ag exempt, so your margins are way higher than a single family dwelling. And there's a lot more other benefits besides that. Number two would be a cattle lease. And honestly, with unless you have a huge amount of land with smaller acreage, it doesn't really pay for itself. It's not going to pay the bill, so to speak, or a good return on investment over the years. Just for the lease itself for cattle, you're going to have to rely on your equity. Hunting leases, just depends on the region, but you're talking, it just depends on what you have on the property, but you could bring in $10,000 to $15,000 a year on that. And then, we're not talking about minerals, oil and gas activity. That's some revenue you can get, but that's getting harder and harder to get with these properties because there's so much money into them.
Right.
Besides that, like for me, I buy ranches because the equity value is going to be way higher than a single family dwelling. I build homes on them and I keep my ag exemptions. The write-offs are way more than a regular business for renting properties. And also, again, your margins can be way higher for various different reasons.
Right.
The other thing too is like, a lot of people I know what they'll do is they'll partner up with a cattle, a person that raises and manages cattle where you're hands off and you get a percentage of that amount of profit per year off the, stocker calves or whatever animals that you have on the property. And finally, another option would be exotics on a property where you're basically breeding them and then you sell them onto the market. But those are lots of different types of, that's a lot of hands-on situation, or you can find experts in that arena and you can sort of, so to speak, lease out your land to them. But as we know it in the past as leasing for crops or cattle, unless you have a huge amount of land, that's not really cost effective.
Right. Yeah, because you get exotics. You have to find a vet that knew what the hell they were doing with them, right?
Well, it's honestly, I do a lot of business in that realm, and there's a lot of money in it, but it's a science, and on top of that, it's an art.
Yeah.
And I say that because there's a lot of people that have a ton of experience in it, but it's a very intensive and very cost intensive operation. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose your money real quick.
Yeah. I can't imagine that. It was, everybody in Texas that I know is so entrepreneurial. They try to get me to go in on buying a bull, and I didn't know, and maybe they were filling me full of bull, that it's priced by the inch of the horn.
Yeah,
That's the way it's really done.
What kind of animal was it?
Longhorn steer.
Oh, okay.
And they were, or a longhorn bull actually,
Yeah.
and they were gonna raise it and do all this. I said, no, I'm
Yeah,
not buying a
longhorns are a pain in the butt to raise. They go through fences and they do all sorts of stuff. I've dealt with them before.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, like for me, and I always advise this to my buyers, is that I try to route them to the easiest way to make money off your property. And it's a combination of a bunch of different things, to get that max money out.
One thing I think a lot of people, especially when we bought property in Texas, we got our first tax bill. I about fell over. I mean, you do the math, and it's not so bad. When you actually get the bill, you better have a heart attack. And I would think with the influx of population you guys are having there in Texas, that your guys' property tax bills have got to be going through the roof.
Yeah. And so again, going back to single family dwelling, like my property was raised in this county by 50% in 1 year, which, for example, $428,000 to $725,000. And for your primary home in the state of Texas, you are protected by 10%, what they call the homestead cap, which basically means they can only raise it 10% per year. But most investors do not understand is that if you do not have a HS cap on your property, they can increase it, as much as they want. And your numbers the previous year, let's say if you're breaking even at $1,800 a month for rent, and then they raise your property taxes double of what it was before, you're all of a sudden losing money.
Yeah.
And with ranch properties, it's totally opposite. Because you have more protection than any other type of asset on a ranch. And the reason why is because I'm ag exempt. Right. Now my home or the property I'm renting out, let's say we have 100 acres, they're going to take that 1 acre and they're going to parse that out with the home on it. And they're going to charge you regular property tax for that property, for that little 1 acre. But still it's going to be lower because it's rural and it's also out of ETJ or city limits. Mm-hmm. And that will go ahead and protect your margin way more than it would be in a case where you're in the middle of the city with a single family dwelling and have no types of write-offs whatsoever towards that or tax shelter towards that property.
Yeah, we had to get an attorney with a company involved to really go ahead and fight to get
right.
those property taxes lowered. And it worked, but you had to pay for the attorney to go, or the company to go in and do that for you. What's a minimum on the taxes? How small can I be? I mean, is it, I have to have 2 head of cattle or 5 head of cattle or sheep or whatever it is? Is there?
Well, so there's 200 plus counties in Texas, and every single one of them have different mandates related to minimums of how much you can have for ag exemption. Okay, so it's to answer, on average, I would say like in Comal County, let's say, it's 5 acres, but that 5 acres, you have to have bees on the property, and bees are just a pain in the butt,
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money. Or what you can do is go buy a 10-acre property and depending on the county, like I said, you can go ahead and get the ag exemption, and then you can turn it to wildlife exemption, which wildlife exemption is basically, I have to have water. I have to, feed the animals in some way or fashion. And then I have to do, let's say I want to cut some brush down, and that will keep all the ag exemption or wildlife exemption on my property. So I have one property that's 250 acres, and my property taxes on that property per year, because I have wildlife exemption, is $200. So for a person, an investor going in and buying a property, looking at equity and everything else, their overhead cost is very, very low if they do it correctly.
I had no idea about that wildlife exemption. I'm learning something today.
Yeah. So you can apply the wildlife exemption to a business model also. So I have if you want me to give you an example, I have a property that's 33 acres. It's 2 bed, 2 bath. I've had it for 2.5 years. I bought it for $265,000. It's worth about $600,000 now. I put in probably $50,000 into that property for cash. I did a lot of different improvements. I changed it to wildlife exemption, and with the house and with the exemption, my taxes are $1,000 a year.
Oh,
and it's about 45 minutes away from San Antonio.
Okay.
And then I'm bringing in about $2,500 a month in rent. Now, see the other thing. Yeah, see the other thing too is on 33 acres. Once my lease is up with this renter, she's paying her premium because she has horses on the property. What actually I'm going to do is I'm probably going to build another home on there. And I'm going to have to pay a little more taxes, but I keep my ag exemption still, or wildlife exemption. And my costs are fixed for the most part for all land I have on that property. And my margin keeps going to go higher because, I'm going to get more rent on that property and so forth.
Or are you going to just subdivide it off and sell 2 different properties at some point?
Usually I don't subdivide them off. I just reinvest the money and try to build more homes on it, so I can
Okay.
get more passive income on those builds on the property.
Yeah. Are you getting people that are coming in and buying these and trying to flip these ranches?
No, not for the most part. It's getting more and more like that, but at the same time, it's not
Yeah.
happening as much as single family dwelling. There's obviously we all know there's a huge flipper industry for SFD.
Yeah.
For ranches, it takes a way more specialized equipment, and I honestly think expertise related to that to do it correctly. But yeah, I mean, I see it some, but not as much as a SFD. And the other thing too is, with buying properties like that, you're still going to pay the 15 to 20% down type of situation. Actually, most mortgages or hard money loans type of thing, they're going to, do the minimum down of 20 or even higher. But a lot of land products I see out there are doing 15% down and then dividend structures at the end for payouts. So if I'm paying $3,000 a month in my $500,000, $600,000 loan, at the end of the year, I'll get a payout of $8,000 for a dividend payout.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to it, and there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
And I'm not even talking about the tax benefits being write-offs. When you buy equipment, you buy anything towards that property, and you can honestly use it for other properties. You can write all that off too, easy.
Yeah. I think if anybody's thinking about being an investor, they need to reach out to somebody like you that, really knows what they're doing. Cause I think there's a lot of opportunity, and somebody like me that's coming back there, even though I grew up around it, there's a lot of opportunity that I'm not even aware of. I didn't know about the wildlife exemption.
Yeah.
I think they need to have a professional guiding them. What's your biggest listing you got right now?
I just sold a 5 million last week. I'm working on one that's 10 million. Not listed yet, but every day it changes. But I had one that was $45,000, and I have ones that are multi-million, and I treat all those clients the same way. It's
Sure.
I don't really try to chase the big boys, but at the same time, I honestly think if you do your work correctly and do stuff on social media and all that and get exposure, you're going to get those.
Yeah, they'll find you. They want to, they can go out there, a lot better chance of finding you. The 4.6s, you didn't arrange that sale?
No, I wish. Yeah, the 4.6s was I think it sold for 199 million.
Yeah.
The biggest one, Malone. No, it was not Malone. It was a guy that owns Fox News. What's his name? Bought a property over in Montana that was 275 million, off the top of my head.
Wasn't you guys had one in North Dallas? It was 200 some thousand, and then T Boone Pickens place.
Yeah, that one's still available right now.
Yeah, how much is that one?
Well, he started out at 260 off the top of my head, and then I think they're below 200 million now.
Yeah, I could live in the dog house or dog barn actually. This is a 40,
yeah, exactly.
40 dog barn.
House for his guns, so there's a lot of room over there.
Yeah, his own lake, own church, everything on that property.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, the highest ranch that's sold in the United States so far is Wagner Ranch, off the top of my head, which was over 400 million, and the Wattons bought that one. So, and a lot of these ranches have never been set for sale since the frontier days when they settled. So this is very one-time deal type of deals that are going to stay in generations, and a lot of fear out there is that when they sell these huge ranches that they're going to fragment them up and change tradition. It's and good news is that at least on those ranches that didn't happen so far.
Yeah, who are you finding out? I know I was talking to my cousin in Hastings, Nebraska. The average age of a farmer is like 60, late 60s. And their kids don't want to farm. So that's what's going to start coming on the market. Are you seeing that same thing in ranches?
Yeah, so I had a video about, and I was just, and people disagree with me, but at the same time, this is what I see. Fragmentation is coming from the siblings and the children of these farmers and ranchers that wanted a what we call legacy ranches, and a legacy ranch would be
Yeah.
tradition, in their heritage, and passed on through generations. But for properties that are near Austin right now, and you're talking, millions and millions and millions of dollars locked up in these properties, and we call them land rich because you're land rich. You can't get that money out, but at the same time, it's worth millions of dollars. A lot of these kids or states are selling them off and selling them to corporate America, or developers, and they're basically just cashing out because their family was cattle, they're a cattle rancher or farmers or whatever, and they're not doing it anymore, and they're
Right.
not interested in it at all.
Yeah.
So true, and I think that's that's across the board. That's I would say the main reason why a lot of this stuff is being fragmented out.
Yeah. You keep hearing about the 30 by 30. I believe, I think I saw you with a TikTok
Yeah.
talking about that, didn't you? Can you kind of tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Well, there's the 30 by 30 is a world initiative. Actually, it's basically is the goal to go ahead and set aside 30% of the land across the world, and not develop it, and basically keep it natural as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And and that was basically 30% by 2030, and then there's actually a next phase from what I've researched that's 50% by 2050. And what that's supposed to do is supposed to help with climate change, and just help with the climate change situation, and protect natural habitat, so forth. And in the United States, off the top of my head, we're already at 700 million acres set aside in U.S. National land, and basically, hold on, sorry. Anyways, national land, and 300 million acres is through state land. So we're already over about 1 billion acres. 30% is basically, 30% of the United States is around 720 million acres.
Okay.
And now the thing is, that's a big catch here, is that, when you look at this, they want 720 million acres not touched by anything besides managing of the properties as we would in the 1800s or 1700s. And the problem with that is, we're talking about taking cattle off these leases through
Yep.
U.S. government, or public leases, and there's a lot of livelihoods on these U.S. government lands. So Biden, or the administration does not know how they're going to do this, but they announced it. And this could be, there's a lot of different options, like taking the rights away from landowners, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But
Right.
how are they going to get, basically 700 million acres of virgin land that not touched by humans? That's cool.
That's going to put a big cut in the food supply, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for farmers as well. I'm assuming that's farmland too, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's all land. Well, James, first of all, thank you for doing your TikToks. I learned a lot from them. You're on there pretty regularly. So everybody that's watching, make sure you check it out. And actually, I'll put all your links down below in this video so they can find you. And keep up the good work out there. And I wish I could have you save me a nice piece of like 40, 50 acres, but I think it's going too fast out there.
Yeah. It's going to keep on going up. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the population moving into that area is really something to watch.
Yes,
and then you got all this tech coming in there, so you're going to be on fire. But James, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate you taking the time. Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
You bet. And for those of you watching, again, you're going to go down below and you're going to get James's information. Reach out to him if you have any questions. If you haven't done so, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe while you're there.